This episode may contain language or discussions that may be offensive or triggering. Refer to the episode summary for details. How real can I be? Is a common question entrepreneurs ask. The burden to attract and retain customers and clients is a real one, and when you add social media to the mix, it can get uncomfortable real quick. But my guest today will help you gain some clarity and confidence around how you show up and represent your business. Hey, it's your business bestie, Charlene Ketchum, and welcome to the SheConfidential podcast. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Shanae Jones, founder of FLYEST Tea Co. After this conversation, you will have the empowerment you need to show up authentically in your business. Hope you enjoy listening in. Thank you so much for chatting with me. Like, my cousin introduced me to your teas years ago, back when it was still like Ivy Teas. That was when you were in Atlanta, because she was in the Atlanta area too, because she went and did like some pickups, because she had sent me like a care package with some teas. And I had just gotten introduced to loose leaf teas. And I was like, oh my gosh, these are so different from the ones that I had before. And then when she told me it was a Black woman, I was like, oh my gosh. So I have been a fan for a minute. And so thank you for doing what you do and for making drinking tea cool. Like,
That's been my main goal. You said back when I was in Atlanta, I used to do a lot of pop-ups in Atlanta, but I've never lived there. The support in Atlanta is just so
oh, okay.
amazing. Like they're just so serious about supporting small businesses and small Black-owned businesses. So it's really good, and that's why I had been going down there. But most of my customers are actually there or here in Baltimore. So yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm based in Maryland, in PG County, Maryland.
Okay. 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 Never knew that.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
got a strong ties to Atlanta.
Hey, so my family is from Georgia, and so
Okay.
from Milledgeville, Georgia. So a lot of my cousins my age, like I'm 41, and so most of my cousins around my age, they've moved up to the Atlanta area because it's more to do, more job opportunity and stuff. But so I get down there pretty regularly. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's the love like for Black businesses pretty much in Atlanta, and I think like so you're in the DC area on the East Coast as
Yeah.
well. And it seems to be
Yeah.
pretty strong there too. Like Black business support seems to
Yeah.
be pretty strong there as well.
Yeah, especially in the face of gentrification, it's really like a lot of amplification of small businesses just to kind of hold on to the culture and also, make sure everybody gets the money, everybody gets the representation. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cause it's enough to go around, which,
It
a lot
sure
of people,
is.
yeah. And for you, like when you started Drink Flyers, like what even inspired you to start making teas?
Well, I'm actually the firstborn American to British family, British and Jamaican family. So I came by my love of tea, honestly. I mean, that's what we drank all the time when I was younger. We would drink Tetley tea, which is like the UK's version of Lipton.
Okay.
And my grandmother would get Tetley and she would drink it. And it was just a black tea, black bag tea with so much condensed milk. So it was mostly milk and sugar and barely any tea. But that's because the tea itself just wasn't that good. But when she made it, it tasted good. And so that's what I've been using. And as I got older, I got exposed to more. I was vegan for a while, and I was just really committed to learning how to live off of the land. And so that inspired me to like use more herbal teas and I realized, that I could make my own. So I just started buying herbs and just started experimenting with them. It just came across as like, like when you get more money, you get more access, so then there was Tivana and you could actually go and see the actual tea leaves and you could smell them. And it was just becoming more and more of an elevated experience. And when I decided to become vegan, I really started to learn more about plants and plant medicine and started to just experiment making my own. It was way more cost effective because Tivana was pretty expensive. I used to go and like a pound of tea was probably close to $20. So it was pretty expensive and it was good stuff. So you go through it really fast. So it just was a matter of taking what I knew from a child and just learning new things. And being a better tea drinker and getting better access to things. And that made me want to launch my own company once I realized that I was spending a lot of money, but none of my money was going to Black owned businesses that made tea. And it's not that I couldn't find any. There was I believe they were sisters based in Georgia. I can't remember the name of their company, but they did sell tea, and it was more of like a Harney and Sons type of tea. Like what's supposed to be like more elevated, more specialty tea times and stuff like that, which was cool. But I was really heavily into the herbal teas and teas for the medicinal properties, not so much just for the experience and the elitism that can come with tea. So I didn't really feel a connection to them. And that's when I really wanted to launch something that was different.
Yeah, I love like you packed so much into that response. I mean, especially like when you said like when you have the access to things because
Yeah.
a lot of times like one of my friends, she said, "Oh, everybody's drinking tea now. It's so bougie." And I was like, "Why is it bougie?" And she's like, "Cuz it's so expensive. Like it's so expensive and it's just and because of the association when we think of tea drinkers who typically is drinking tea, is not something that we think that the everyday person, unless you like from the South and you got some sweet tea, that might be a lot
Right,
of
right.
people's closest association to tea. But like you just said, when you have like a little bit more money and you get a little bit more exposure as well, you can start to
Yeah.
try these different things and I appreciate like you making the herbal teas because that's actually what really first attracted me to tea. So I started off drinking tea like in the bags, like the tea bags. I would get my little green tea
Mhm.
because I had heard it was really good for you and all these
Yeah.
antioxidants and all that stuff. So I would buy my little tea in the bags. And then one of my buddies was making loose leaf tea. And I was like, okay, she's got a black business. I'll support her, but I've never fooled with this. And this just seemed like it's going to be messy and everything. And then I realized the
Yes.
flavor was really, there was more pack in the flavor. And I realized there were so
Yeah.
many different flavor profiles that you could get in teas as opposed to, and I've never been a coffee drinker. But when I got into the
Mm.
teas, I'm like, you can really have some fun with this. And then you've got the
Yeah.
herbal properties of it. So you can have it actually
Yeah.
help you with some of those everyday common elements. Like if you have menstrual cramps or if you need
Yes.
something to help you sleep and all those things. And then like you've got some that will help you open your sinuses up that help sleep. I love blue. I don't know if blue is like one of the herbal
Yes.
ones, but I love blue. It's like relaxing for me and it's really pretty. You've got the turmeric one, which is I'm bad with
Yeah.
names. Like I think it's yellow. That's the
Uh,
turmeric one, is it?
yes. Yeah. I love.
Yes, like that's
Yes.
y'all. That's my favorite one. And it tastes so
Oh
good,
wow.
and you have all the honeys, but your teas are so good that I don't even have to add the honeys to them. Like that's just an extra treat for me. So
Thank
if you
you.
could, like, since I'm going on and on about the teas, give us kind of like an overview of the type of teas that you offer and some of the medicinal benefits and everything that people can get.
Sure. So I do have a couple of black teas and a couple of green teas, but my specialty is mainly the herbal teas. I've found from my customers that I'm really good at making like fruit flavored
Yes.
black teas that they love, but that's just more so for my customers. It's not really like what I'm passionate about. I love to like just play with different herbs and mix things up. One of the main reasons why I took my herbal apprenticeship when I launched my business was because I wanted to make sure that when I was playing with herbs, I wasn't mixing up anything that could potentially hurt me or other people. And it was important to me that I just learn more about the background of herbs and what types of herbalism there are and different ways that I can make sure that I was honoring the legacy of my ancestors who practiced herbalism. Um, but now I have a few teas. We don't have a whole lot of blends. It's never been my passion to have like a whole bunch. But I do have a secret tea club where I release a new tea every week. And people are like, "Wow, you're really creative." And I'm like, "Yes, gang, gang. I be in the lab. I'm in the warehouse working, y'all."
Yeah.
But so some of the main ones that we have are yellow, like you said, which is our heart healthy turmeric tea. And one of the great things about it is that it's made with actual turmeric root as opposed to the powder. So you don't end up with a yellow sludge at the bottom of your cup, which you do get from a lot of these other turmeric teas that are available. One of our most popular blends is Sister Sister, our chamomile rose tea, which is good for stressful days. I don't necessarily market it as a tea that you could use for rest. I know a lot of people think of chamomile as something for rest, but it's got spearmint and also rose petals in it, which do keep you alert. So it's kind of like on those days where you're stressful, but you still got to get stuff done. So what you need to do is kind of relax and just plow through your work. I feel like a lot of relaxation tea is kind of just put you in a more sedative state, make you want to go to bed or just relax and not do anything. But sometimes I just feel overwhelmed, but I still have to do work. And so I made Sister Sister for that. Another one of our very popular teas is Red Bone, which is named after the song from Childish Gambino. It is a spicy cranberry hibiscus tea. And it got that name, because Childish Gambino in the song says stay woke. And it's a chili pepper tea. So once you swallow it, like you're going to be woke. And then
I
one
love
of our other most popular teas is Cream, which is a mint tea inspired by
it.
the song from the Wu-Tang Clan, but it's refreshing and it's crisp and it's so cooling, all those things you want from a mint. And it's not made on the plantation, like my competitors' mint teas. Everything that we sell is
Mhm.
um, made with herbs that are sourced from small farms or woman-led farms or co-ops. It's important to me that I keep our supply chain short and then I support other small businesses as I'm growing mine. So all of this stuff like builds a really ethically sound company that supports other people and supports the interests of my customers, which mirror mine. So it makes it a lot easier to not only attract customers, but make sure that I'm doing good work entirely. As it comes, as a business owner and someone who owns a hip hop inspired tea company, there's so much stuff about capitalism and some of our favorite, black folks stepping, over picket lines and certain things like that, that are controversial, making decisions that we feel like our black leaders or black musicians should not do. But I believe that as a small black woman owned business, I can shift the narrative around conscious consumerism and make sure that when I am selling products that they are things that my customers are interested in, and also make sure that they are supporting the community at the same time. And that's an uphill battle, but it's just something that I can do. It's my way of playing my part in being a responsible black woman.
And thank you for that. And I appreciate your transparency in acknowledging that it's not necessarily easy to do that, because it's even you often hear people talk about a company's culture, and we think that that only applies to big businesses, but as a small thriving, growing company, you have a company culture as well, and you get to infuse your
Right.
values and your belief system into it as well. And you've thoroughly done that with Drink Flyers. So I have to ask you, like, who is your favorite hip hop artist?
Oh, my favorite rapper of all time is Nas. I love his music. I started with probably I Am as his album. Like that's my introduction to him.
Yeah.
And then I listened to Nostradamus, which came after that. And then I went backwards and listened to Illmatic. And all of the references and things that he talked about, like, really helped me go back and learn more about older rap artists.
Mm-hmm.
Because my family came here in 1979. So a lot of times people are like, oh, I know your mom knows about Ronald Isley. Or I know your mom like listen to the Gap Band, and it's like, yeah and no. We listen to like Gregory Isaacs and like a lot of Jamaican artists who made covers of those songs, but then we listen to the Bee Gees and the Beatles. Like that was what was
Yeah.
really like influencing a lot of the music and stuff that we listened to. So it wasn't until my grandparents had been here for a little while that they started listening to more American music, and also the same for my mom. But yes, so my absolute favorite is Nas, and then like number two, like a close number two, is Gucci Mane. I just love his work ethic and all the
I
albums
like it
he's
a
put
little
out.
ratchet.
I,
Yes.
it's like a dream. It is a dream of mine to do a Super Bowl commercial with Gucci Mane and my tea. Like that's like on my
Ooh.
vision board. I want to do that so badly. I know it's like a big culture clash. It's like what? but I think that is perfect. It speaks to a lot of people, and it shows like all the respect that I have for him. So yeah, it's hard to have a favorite rapper these days though, because they so controversial. They
You
finding new
know,
ways to be offensive.
girl, it's like you just doing shit just to be doing shit. It's hard. It's so hard. Especially when you talk about being a public figure, even as a business owner, that's right. It's you become a public figure whether you want to be or not. If you're on
Yeah,
social media and you have any type of following, you're kind of like a public figure whether you want to be or not. And there is a responsibility that comes with that that can be really difficult, especially when people, life be life and people be going through things. But then sometimes people just be
yes,
tripping. And it's really hard as a consumer and when you're trying to be socially conscious and just a good human and you
yeah,
have this person that you rock with, you rock with because of their artistry or whatever they've done in the past that has entertained and inspired you, and now they just tripping. And it's really hard to figure out, how do you navigate that, how do you separate those two people? And I know a lot of people have had that conversation around R. Kelly, and his things, and how do we separate the artist from the music and everything. But even just thinking about it for yourself as an entrepreneur, how does that kind of influence some of the moves that you make and how you choose to show up on social and everything? And because you've always been really outspoken in terms of your
mhm,
passion for supporting Black businesses and being, ethical and being socially aware in terms of who you work with and your suppliers. And that's one of the things that I appreciated when I first started following your page, because a lot of people will talk about it in the background because they're worried about offending. It's like, I don't want to seem like too pro Black because I might make people uncomfortable or I might offend. And you've been really upfront about, like, this is who I am, this is my value system. So how did you
yeah.
find that comfort as an entrepreneur to show up and represent like what you believe in?
For a while, I was definitely nervous. I won't pretend that I was always like ready to take down the man. It's been over time. One of my favorite things about being an entrepreneur is that I have so much more confidence and I believe in myself so much more as a woman. I have grown so much as a woman and it spills out even into interpersonal relationships. It's kind of like, do you know who I am? I had racists emailing me every day for 3 months. I can do anything. You're not finna talk to me crazy. um and it just kind of really can really inspire you. It can make you, break, of course, or you can kind of turn it around and really own it. And I would say that in the past almost 3 years now, I've really grown to own it. I think that one of the biggest things that helped me was that I realized that, there's the Buy from a Black Woman community, of course, which has been a great supporter of mine, but also just getting notes from people like yourself who are saying, it feels really good to be seen in these products, or, finally, I feel like something's for me. And, as long as you have like a small group of people, you don't need a million supporters. You need 1,000 like dedicated ones. So if you can get 1,000 dedicated ones, that's basically all you need. um and it's like having these most of them are Black women, like really advocate for me and really be proud of what I'm doing. I appreciate that they know that they can challenge me or that they can pose ideas to me, and I'm receptive to feedback. I'm receptive to all types of criticism. um it's just like a real symbiotic relationship. When I make products for other people, I'm making products for myself, so it's easy to really stay in alignment and to do something that serves my community in a positive way. But I think that being fired from my day job and really only having flyers to fall back on, and I think getting tired of being tokenized in the workplace and that being like my reason for launching my own business, all of that stuff kind of really puts you in a mind frame for where you're like, if I'm going to do my own business, why am I going to tolerate the same things that I tolerated when I worked for somebody else? Like, I'm going to be my authentic self. That's all I can be. And the good thing is that so much is fake. So much is so fake out there that if you just show up consistently as yourself, it's easier to shine. You don't have to curate anything. I think that that's something that we realize. I hope that other business owners are seeing it. It's difficult to put on a persona online. You have to show up as that authentically all the time.
Yeah.
Take for example someone like Andrew Tate. Someone who probably doesn't 100% believe the misogynist things that he's saying, right? But he's been posting about it, and then when it was time for his accounts to be taken away, he's like, "Oh, I'm just a comedian." Well, hold up. You said you were these things. Now you're saying you're not these things. Like, you have to, it's so much easier to just be yourself. This way, when you show up authentically, you don't have to make any apologies for it. People gravitate towards authenticity. People can tell. There's a lot of cake online. Everything's cake. There's a lot of cake online, and people can tell what's real versus what's fake. So I just decided I don't know much about marketing. I don't know much about advertising. I don't know much about growing and scaling a business. I'm not about to figure out how to be somebody else. I know how to make tea and I know how to be me. And I'm just going to ride those two things because that's all I had. So that's how it was. You're just relying on authenticity and hoping that people would respect it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I hope somebody hears that and it eases a lot of that stress because social media, I work with, I have a pilot program right now for entrepreneurs and developing systems to help them be able to sustain their business success without getting burned the F out. Because we
Mm,
know that that's very prevalent. People a lot of times focus on
yeah,
the number of small businesses that don't survive instead of how many thrive because 25% of small businesses make it to the 15-year mark and beyond, and that's the number that we need to
yeah,
focus on, and we need to look at what are those business owners doing that allows them to sustain that business success, and not just the business success but sustain a thriving personal life. Because when you're not
right.
showing up authentically in your business, whether that's on social media or just how you operate in your company culture and your value system, it's going to, like you said, it's going to spill over into everything else. Because now you've got this persona that you need to
Yeah,
try to maintain. And, or it's going to taint who you actually are. Like you're going to start believing the myth that you're putting out there, that narrative.
yes.
And that gets real messy real fast.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like really messy.
It's not worth
And
it. Yes.
it's not, but I think so many people, like you said, and you were being really vulnerable and saying when you started this, like, you don't know, like you started as a necessity or doing it full time when your full time employment ended. And so I want to talk about that a little bit because a lot of people think that in order to be an entrepreneur, you need to automatically quit your 9 to 5. I don't know if you've seen that going on.
Yeah.
Everybody's telling everybody to quit their jobs. So,
Yeah.
how did you manage having a full time job and building your business? Because it sounds like you were still, I probably was purchasing teas when you were still doing both. And you were great. Like people, if you're not following her on social, you really need to because you take us what I call your lab. We get to see you packaging things up and doing the work, and we see the
Yeah.
behind the scenes. But you've been very transparent about the fact that this is hard. Like I'm doing this, I'm shipping this, packaging these things myself. Like this is real. I don't have
Yeah.
like 20 people doing this stuff. So how did you do that when you were also juggling a full-time job?
Sure. So I was living in DC at the time, a terrible little apartment on 1115 21st Street in Northeast DC. And it was a very small place. I lived there with my sister, but she let me take over our little dining room, and I made it into a warehouse for myself. That's where I would make teas and package them and stuff. And at this exact same time, I was working for a Quaker lobbying organization, and I guess I thought that I would be safer with those white folks, but they were, Quakers are supposed to be kind of pacifist, but they were not as pacifist as you would think. They had a lot of racist tendencies, and
Hmm.
I would just be standing around. I would do a lot of outreach because I was like one of the three black women there. The
Hmm.
other two black women worked in finance. So, sometimes those finance people are just introverted. Just give me my numbers, let me do my thing. But I was put out there to do outreach and all these sorts of things. And it was cool because it taught me a lot of what I needed for my business now. But anyway, I thought that things would be better for me there, but I was working and I was making a decent salary. I think I was making about $55,000 a year. And I was just doing my business then. And I would meet people saying things like, you're not passionate about this because you still work your day job. And I used to catch the X2. If you're from DC, the X2 is literally the worst bus in the world. Like the people would be gambling, they would be fighting. Like it was just a really dangerous bus route. It was crazy as hell. And I would take the bus route home, and as soon as I got home, I had to work 9 to 5:30, no exceptions. Like that was their strict schedule. So I got home probably about 6:15. I didn't make dinner. I didn't do any of that stuff. I would just pack orders from the day, and I would load them up in a really big blue IKEA bag, set it by the door so I could take the X2 the next morning to work. And I would have my big bag, and I would be on the bus. And it was a crowded bus, so 9 times out of 10, I had my work bag, my lunch box, my purse, and I got my big blue bag of orders sitting on my lap. And I would go to work, hide it under my desk so no one would see my packages. And then I would sneak out at like 11 a.m. when people were in meetings. And I would walk half a mile to my local post office, and I would stand in line and I would pay for my packages one by one. I didn't even know that you could buy stamps online. You know what I'm saying? I was so green, I didn't know anything. So I would go down there, pay for the packages, and then walk a half a mile back. I'd have no lunch. My 30-minute lunch would be up. And so I would just sit down and pretend that I'd had a great lunch. You know what I'm saying? I pretended that I walked to lunch, and because I
Wow.
would come back to work and I'd have to get right back into it. And all this time, people are saying, "Oh, you're not passionate. You're not doing." I'm like, "You don't even know what all I'm doing." I was working that job, and then I decided that I needed to quit because it was too open office. It had an open office concept with no doors, no nothing. I was like, man, I need me a job with some cubicle walls. I need some privacy so I can work on my business during the day. um, and so I quit that job and I started working at the NIH, which was great because the government is like so far behind. So they still had cubicles, and I couldn't find my manager half the time. So it was perfect. Like I would get in at about 6 a.m. I'd work on their stuff till about 8 o'clock, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Then 9 to 11, I was working on my business. I'd take an hour lunch, and then I was back to working on my business again. So I switched jobs because I needed something that would give me more privacy. I didn't end up making as much money as I probably could have if I had been a lot more career focused. But once I moved to NIH, I did make more money than I was at the last job. It gave me more privacy. So these were the types of moves that I was making all while running my side hustle. And, I tell people, don't listen to what anybody says about quitting your job. There's a lot of business owners who told me to quit my job, and now what are their businesses? I don't even know what they're doing. They don't know what it's like to work to fund their businesses. So many of my white counterparts are right now, they don't know what they're going to do. There's a recession, and there's the VC money is dried up. Oh, I don't know how I'm going to launch my monthly perfume subscription that the community so desperately needs because I'm not going to be able to get
Hmm.
any VC money. They don't know what it's like
Yeah.
to work and fund your business. So don't listen to those people. I worked my business. I worked a full-time job and had my business for 4 years. I was fired in 2020 in the pandemic because I told them I was not going to be getting on the Zoom every single week for a meeting. I just couldn't. I knew that it was not going to work for me. I was too busy trying to run my business. I didn't have time to be working from home and sitting on Zoom with you all the time. I didn't have to Zoom with you when I was at work. And they did not like that. So they fired me. But it all worked out because that month that I got fired, I made my yearly salary in a month. I had never done that before. So it was like, okay, I wouldn't have been able to do both anyway. I ended up getting fired on June 3rd. And by the end, when I saw my numbers at the end of the month, like I knew I was busy and I had more money in my account, sure.
Yeah.
But it was just like, wow, this worked out for my good. And it's just because I had been putting in the work all along, and I never quit before it was time to, like save your money, work your job, get your little health insurance, get your little 401k stuff, like use the job for however long you need to. And for some people, you might always have your day job and a side hustle. That's totally fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. If that means that you only open your t-shirt shop once a month, only open it once a month. I know plenty of people in my field who are herbalists. They make products for the month and then they're like, my store is opening on November 15th. So they're just advertising now. November 15th, everything sells out. They're closed again till December 15th. It works for them. They have customers who, you don't have to be shipping every day and on your Jeff Bezos. If you communicate clearly to your customers, let them know, hey, this is a business where we ship on Saturdays, or this is a business where we're only open one day a week, or you have to get a code to enter our website to make a purchase. Like, it's your business. Make it look how you want it to look. And sometimes that means you still have a day job because you want that comfort, whatever. But it doesn't make anybody a better business owner than you because they quit their job and took some imaginary leap of faith to run some candle business or whatever they're doing. Like, these people act like they made Thriller. They're always acting like they saving the world because
Okay.
they quit a job. Like, come on, any like, hang it up.
It's the truth. And people
I'm
not telling
sorry
you
if
the
I'm
whole
ranting.
story. No,
They
I
really are not.
appreciate that. Yes, because people not telling you everything. They're not telling you
Yeah,
who gave them the seed money to start the business. They're not, and some people not telling you about the struggle. So they quit that job and now they're stressed the fuck out like all the time.
yes,
So people might make you think, they'll show you on social media, they'll show you the receipts. Oh, I'm making all this money. I've got this car. Look
yeah.
at me on this vacation. Y'all don't know how they finance that stuff. You don't know how they
You really
feel on
don't.
the inside, how they sleeping at
So
night.
much of that stuff, so much of that stuff is fake. You'll be comparing your sunglass company to somebody else's sunglass company. Why is so and so having so many more sales for their sunglasses company? Because they sleeping with people and that's how they getting their money, honey. Are you willing to do that? If not, just work your plan. Don't be looking at nobody else's because we don't know what did some of these people are. What does Coach Stormy say? Low vibrational. Some of
Yes.
these people is doing all types of low vibrational stuff for
It's
money. And if that's not your story, if that's not your plan, the tortoise and the hare is still real. It was just a little nursery rhyme that you learned when you were younger, but it's very much so applicable to you as an adult. It's okay to be the tortoise. You don't have to be the first one to everything. Sometimes if you can't be the first, be the best. And to be the best sometimes just takes time. So just settle on being best. You don't have to be
yeah,
first.
yeah. And sometimes being first can be hard when we talk about being the first in your circle to start a business, because there's a
Hmm.
lot of things that come with running a business that are separate from the passion that we often
Yeah.
have for starting the business. So if you could, to the degree that you're comfortable, what are some of the lessons learned that you had in business so far?
Um, always get the money first. Always. Um, don't let nobody, oh, I'll give you half the payment here and the other half here. Tell them to suck on an egg. Get the money up front, okay? Because these people, they'll screw you. Um, what's the next thing? Protect your business and don't be afraid about who you offend. I have offended so many people because I protected my business. Anybody who don't like it, they don't have to. There's a lot of people who, I've been like, well, this person stole this from me. I know that they did. Here's how I know. And there are people like, oh, well, she didn't know, or they didn't know, or it's a shame that as a black woman, you're going to call out another black woman for theft, or it's wrong for you to call out another black man for theft. I'm telling you right now, all skin folk and kinfolk. And there's a lot of people out here who will watch what you do and take it. And sometimes they have more money and sometimes they have a bigger following. So it's easier for them to do that. They'll weaponize a following against you. You got to have a lot of nerve. You got to have a backbone. You got to be willing to speak up and you got to be willing to call people out when they're doing the wrong thing. You being I don't know if this is proverbially correct, politically correct, but you being the first cowboy over the hill can be very important. Sometimes you might get shot with some bows and arrows, but at least you put them on notice that someone's willing to do it. This way, you could stop somebody else from having their stuff stolen or their trademark or copyright infringed upon. And staying silent, it doesn't get us anything. The Me Too movement was about sexual assault, but we also have to take that same attitude in other ways. Call wrong people out. Call a thing a thing. Don't be afraid to say. You took that from me. You're going to get some hate mail. Just throw up a promo code. At least get paid from it, but don't be
I
afraid.
love it.
Don't
Make
be
that
afraid
publicity work.
to because they're gonna say something bad anyway. They didn't like you from the beginning. Now that they got eyes on your stories and they're viewing your page, because there's a lot of chatty patties who's nosy. It's a lot of ops out there who's looking. They're gonna tune into your Instagram stories. They're gonna tune into your Instagram live because they want to see what you're talking about. Monetize the opportunity. Don't be afraid to be somebody who's out to get your paper. Because there's a lot of people who will tell you, especially as a black woman, that you're not supposed to, oh, you're supposed to want to do this for community and you're supposed to want to do this for that. No, I got bills. You think I could call my rent company and tell them, well, I donated 10 hours this month to XYZ? They're going to put me right on out. Okay. They're going to file papers to have me on the street. So don't be afraid to get the money. That's what you're here for. Remember why you are here. Remember why you are doing this. Um, so like those are like some of the biggest lessons that I can really point out. It's been an uphill battle, but being silent doesn't work. So some of the best advice that I ever got was from a man at a pop-up shop, and he said to me, "Be loud." And that's how we have to be. And as black women, sometimes we're afraid to be loud. A lot of people say that black women are angry and all these. I don't think we're angry enough. I think you need to be real. You have to be mean. You have to be a bitch. You're not going to get anything being nice. Trust me, I have tried it. They see it as a sign of weakness. All you have to do is be polite. That's all you can do is be polite. But when you're being kind to everybody, you're being mean to yourself. So think about why you started. Think about your goals for your business, what you're going to do. What do you want for yourself? And go after that. However it looks. You don't have to hurt people to get it, but you do have to stand up for yourself because people will hurt you to get what they want or to take it or take away what you have. So you got to get real tough. Like really tough.
Girl, I tell you, thank you. You everything that you said about like protecting the business and everything is so important and it's something that we need to hear because a lot of people they're out there having these, they're networking and they're telling too much of their business to people and everybody is their friends and especially they're thinking, "Oh, this is another black person. I'm going to tell them everything and we're going to help
Yeah.
each other, or we're going to do these collaborations." And it's not so I want to talk about collaborations a little bit because I see that you do them.
Mhm.
But do you have
Yes.
any tips for people to do meaningful collaborations that are reciprocal in terms of benefit? Like how do you determine who is in alignment with your brand and when it's a collaboration that's worthwhile and how do you protect yourself when you're doing these collaborations?
Sure. So I think that the one of the most important things is that it's always something that is in alignment with your brand or your goals for your brand, because a lot of people will pitch you to do a partnership and you're like, you don't even have an Instagram. Who are you gonna promote me to? You have no Instagram, you have no Twitter, you have no TikTok, you haven't posted to your Facebook in 10 years. Like, what some people are looking to use your name or your following. So you have to have some discernment, and it's okay, and don't be sad to say no, because there's gonna be somebody else. Trust me, it's always somebody else. um and always think about what you want and make sure that you're able to get what you want. There are some sororities who have, high teas. They have teas all the time. Every year I get an invitation to teach these people who sign up for the tea about the benefits of tea, which is great. But no one thinks about my business when it's time to get tea. You know what I'm saying? And to me, a more reciprocal relationship would be, hey, we would like to have you provide tea, or we would like to pay you for tea to send to our members. We'll give you an opportunity to talk about your business or have a Q&A or answer questions about teas. It has to be more relational because if I'm going to talk to you about tea and you're going to drink Lipton, how does that benefit me? You know what I'm saying? I'm just here saying wah babadoo. And it's difficult to sometimes say no because they're like, oh, there's a lot of us and we've got a big following and you're going to have an opportunity to talk to 5,000 of us. I mean, okay. that sounds fun, but I would really have appreciated $5,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to just talk to your people about tea. I want y'all to bring me to front of mind when you're talking about actually having your events. And you have to be willing to say, hey, that's not fair. There's been situations where folks have asked me to donate free product, and I tell them straight up, I'm not going to donate any free product to you. This is a Black woman owned business. What part of we need money don't y'all understand? Like, don't ask us for free stuff. Call up Target and see what you can get for free. Target got lots of reserves, okay? But they don't want to reach that high. They want to try to get you to give them something. And sometimes it's okay to give, but you're not going to get any sales from it. You have to remember that. If you're doing this is something you want to put on your taxes. You know what I mean? So when it comes to partnerships, make sure that it works out for your brand. Think about the things that you want and don't be afraid to counter. I've had people say, hey, I would like to, could you donate some tea for a giveaway that we're having for this cookbook? Sure. Is there an opportunity for me to promote my product in the stories on your Instagram page or on the feed? 9 times out of 10, they disappear because they don't want you to really get anything. But if they did respond, then it's an opportunity for us to work together. Don't be afraid to counter with a different offer. And something that I learned from Issa Rae, which is always to kind of network on your level, kind of, look to your left, look to your right, see who's doing stuff. And you guys can work together. You don't always have to look up to find somebody. You can find people on your exact same level doing similar things or things in the industries that are interesting to you. And you can cross promote that way. And always draw up some sort of contract. I mean, I'm not saying you have to go to a lawyer and give them $1,000 to write you up a contract, but I am saying, like, have some terms. This is what I promised to do. This is what you promised to do, and sign here and there. It's not something that should be intimidating to anybody, but it gives everyone clear terms of what's expected of them and how they can deliver. And you just want to get into the habit of doing that in business. I've had one of my worst partnerships was being on a website, one of those like Black Amazon or Black Etsy type of websites. You put your products on the website and they sell them for you. And someone wrote me and said, they wrote me from the company and said, we can't afford to have your tea anymore. Would you be willing to drop the price? But I was already giving them a 60% discount, at wholesale. So I was like, I can't really go much lower than that. And then they ended up working with a competitor. So, you gotta just be mindful of things. Think about the worst case scenario. We all try to be so optimistic. Don't harp on the worst case scenario, but consider it and then consider the best case scenario and then do your pros and cons and determine if it's worth it. That partnership wasn't worth it. They ended up using a competitor whose products were sometimes confused for mine. So it's just easier to make sure that you just think it through. You don't have to say yes right away. You don't have to say no right away either. Give yourself some time and think about your goals and go from there.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I know that's something that a lot of us we struggle with as Black women. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
And just it's okay to get your money, ladies. Like, you need money to pay
Yes.
your bills. Money gives you
You
opportunity.
have to.
It's so much shame around saying that we're trying to make money, but like, unless you're just doing charity work, and once you can, there's a place for that too. And here's the thing, this is why you have to make money.
Yes.
If And I love this book, I don't know if you've read Rachel Rogers, We Should All Be Millionaires, but one of the things that she says
I
in there,
recently just heard about her.
oh,
For
you
the
got to
first
add it.
time, I just heard about her.
Yes.
And everyone's like, you gotta know Rachel. So now you're like the third person. I'm
Yes.
like, okay, let me write
Yes.
this down.
I'm so
I'm
glad
gonna,
I could give you a book
Rachel, you're gonna get some
recommendation,
money.
because you give us book recommendations like in your weekly email list all the time. And so,
Yes.
just as a side thing, so you mentioned you watched that Netflix show, The Watcher. And when I saw you, you were like, oh no. And so I started as a watch it. I was like, oh, she didn't like it. I'm like, but I heard other people said it was interesting. I watched, it was funny. I pushed through it because I was
I
curious to
did
know
that.
who
It
did.
was good too. The last episode made me so mad.
It was infuriating, and it's very
It was
different from
just
the real story.
yes.
So for those of you who watch it,
Oh,
like look up the real story. It's very different from Netflix's depiction of it and stuff. But yeah, I'm glad I could give you a book recommendation because you always give us
yes.
recommendations in your newsletter. So that's another thing. If y'all are not on her email list, like several ways to connect with her, like following on her Instagram, and also, and everything's Drink Flyest, right? On your social,
Yes.
on the Instagram.
Yeah.
So definitely sign up for notifications because y'all know the algorithm is a hater. So sign up for notifications. Get on the text message insider. I love how easy you make it to order because I'll get a text. And so I have myself on a budget though, because I'll tell you, it's so easy to just, so y'all, this is what happens. So you get a text message like, we got this new tea. This is the benefit of it. Just reply back with the quantity. So you've already set it up with in the system. So your card is on file. So you just text back like, yeah, I want this. Y'all can get caught up with this. So sometimes I'm like, okay, how much tea do I already have in this house? And so I
I
have a
know, I
bunch.
know.
Yeah, it's like sometimes I'm like, ooh, I want to just reply back and be like, let me order two or three. So I have to like, you know, exercise some control, but that is such an easy, convenient way to order. And it's just a good way to stay in touch. And then you send out your weekly emails. And that's the thing that I also like about you because
Mhm.
you're every time I hear from you, it's not selling. Like your weekly emails, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm reading. This is what I'm watching. This is the new meal I made. You can check out the how I made it, the recipe on my Instagram and everything is not always selling. And I
Yeah.
think that that's a wonderful example for other entrepreneurs as well. Your audience shouldn't always only hear from you when you're selling something. Like make this
Mhm.
connection. Cause even though I don't know you in real life, like I feel like, oh, she cool as hell. Cause she like hip hop and I know what she's reading. I know what she cooking, all this stuff. And it's really neat because you're more inclined to support people that you feel like you have some sort of connection with and you like. So y'all don't be afraid to talk to people
Listen.
outside of promoting your services or products.
Yes, like you said, don't be scared. Don't be. Do it. I get responses back, you know. And it's cool. It feels good to know people are reading that and that they were like, "Oh, let me write her back and tell her what I think," you know. So,
Yeah,
yes. Try it. Building relationships is important.
very. And so my final question for you, and this is the biggie. We'll wrap up on the big question. What do you want your legacy to be?
Um, I'm 34. I am single and definitely staying this way. Just me and my little dog Foxy Cleopatra. Like that's exactly how I like it. I've worked so hard to keep my life so peaceful and drama free, and I don't want anything that disturbs that at all. Like anytime I feel I'm like this is crazy, I'm out of here. Like any little thing. And I'm now an aunt of three. My sister had my oldest nephew. He's now like 20 months old, and then she had twins shortly after that who are now 6 months old. So I've got all these little babies and their little youthful energy, and they're just like my little pieces of light. Like I just love them so much. I spend all day on Wednesdays and Saturdays with her. She's like, you guys know they're getting older, you don't have to come over so much anymore. I'm like, shut up, I have to see them every single week. um it's like I really want to make a whole lot of money and get like a compound for my family and just be like a little hermit person. I'm really learning to just love family and family time. Uh, when when I would drink tea with my grandmother, that's how I learned about politics. It's how I learned like family drama. It's how, I had a lot of discussions with my grandmother and my mom and even my sister about important things that, shaped our family history. There's not much about my family that I really know. My family's from Jamaica. My grandmother, she could only remember her grandmother. She couldn't remember any like her great grandma or anybody after that. So what I know about my family history is just so short. And so it's just really important to me that I create space for us to have loving, kind relationships and deep conversations with one another. And with Flyest, I hope that I'm able to kind of put that onto other people as well. That if you have a difficult conversation that needs to be had, or even a celebratory conversation, that you kind of want to do that around tea, that you want to do that around Flyest, that you feel like it lowers the barrier to have some conversation about something super serious. And that's like really, I really want the legacy to be about that. I drew people together. Starting with myself, of course, draw my even closer to my family, but helping other people do the same, either with blood family or family that you make as you get older, new friends that you accumulate and new relationships that you have. So I never really considered, what I wanted my legacy to be when I started, but the more that I grow and the more I find that things are important to me and also to my customers, and with the pandemic and everyone just kind of being shut off, what I realize is that it's so important for us to build healthy relationships with one another. We don't need no more story times on TikTok. We don't need no more drama filled Facebook posts. We know you've had a rough life and all this other stuff. Let's move beyond that. Let's start having more positive posts about loving on one another and receiving love from people who we really care about. Like that's what we really need to see. And I hope that my tea gives people space to do that.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As you described that, I saw an entire, like, I'm very visual. And I think that's the writer in me. I saw an entire scene like unfolding of just like this beautiful
Yeah.
family, like on this compound that you described, on this big open porch, with the kids running in and out of the house because you've got this big yard and you got the cookout going and everybody's drinking their tea and you playing some Maze and Frankie
Yes.
Beverly or whatever makes your heart feel happy. And you've just got
Look,
everybody
look.
together.
By the time I'm old, it'll be Travis Scott. It won't be.
Girl, no.
That'll
Oh
be our
my.
old school.
Okay, so for real.
That'll be our
So
old school
who do you
music.
think, like honestly, like right now, who do you think has the longevity to be the one that we will be jamming in our 70s and 80s? Like for real, for real. Like R&B
I
and hip
don't
hop.
know. I honestly don't listen to much R&B, especially like the mainstream stuff. The
Yeah.
girls whisper too much. Like, where's the
Cuz
soul? So like when I'm listening to it, a lot of times it ends up being stuff from the U people from the UK or people from Germany. It usually ends up being those Afro, I guess you would say like African immigrants, sort of the daughters of those immigrants singing music. Like now I don't even know. Like so many of the people here, especially the ones on the radio, those girls, their music is so I can't relate to it. I just told you I don't have no drama in my life. I can't listen to no album about being no baby mama. If somebody release an album about their dog, I'ma stream it. But right now I don't know. But and the same thing goes for the rap music. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see. Everything's just so temporary, it
yeah.
seems. Nothing's like really made to last. Like Beyonce said, the girls don't put out albums anymore.
No.
It's just a bunch of singles, like nothing that means anything. It don't seem like it means anything to them either.
No.
It just let me put this out and move on to the next thing. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
It's the pursuit of going viral.
I can only hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just go. It'll probably be like the older stuff will probably like make a comeback. That'll probably be what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh oh, I think she's gone again.
Okay. Looks like it's back. Okay.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay. Yeah,
The
it is
weather
like
is trying. Is trying
it
you.
is. It's like the thunder and lightning and all this stuff. It's crazy because we haven't had any rain in weeks. And so I'm in Missouri. We've got like some drought like conditions right now. There's parts of the Mississippi
Oh
River
man,
that people are actually like it's a big tourist attraction now. They're walking across parts of it, which is really like I don't think people understand how horrific that is. Like it's not a
that's
good
sad.
thing. that we're
And
experiencing
people
this.
are like, oh no.
Like, I climate change is real. Like, I know a lot of people are like,
Yes, it
it's just liberal
is.
stuff. No, this is real, y'all. And we're seeing that it's real right now.
Listen,
So, like, us getting all
no,
this
in
rain. I'm in St. Louis.
in those in those areas. Oh, so in those areas, do you know if in those areas where people can walk across the Mississippi River, are those predominantly black or poor neighborhoods?
No, so it's not in the St. Louis area. So the Mississippi, it kind of runs like all through the state. So it's mainly like and actually the St. Louis region, we're not really experiencing the drought severity that other parts of the state are. So we actually had really serious floods a couple of months ago, because we
Mm,
got a ton of rain. Like, it was a ridiculous amount. Like, it was several months worth that we got in 8 hours. And so it was really a traumatizing thing. People lost their homes and their
oh, I
livelihoods.
do remember
Yeah,
that.
it was major
I
catastrophic
remember
flooding.
that. Yeah.
Yes. But it was just like the St. Louis region. It wasn't all of the state, because the majority of the state is
Mm,
experiencing this drought. And so it's not most of the areas that are in that part, because I just saw, like, it popped up in my news feed on Facebook. You know how they're always listening. So for some reason, I saw an advertisement for, if you want to do this tour to cross the Mississippi, sign up here. And I'm like, I ain't doing that. First of all, I'm not
wow.
driving there, because there's certain parts of Missouri, it's a Midwest state, but it's very much a red state. A lot of people don't realize that. So there are
Oh
certain parts of
yeah.
this state I ain't
Oh
interested in
yeah.
going to. And the other thing is, that's just sad to me to know that the river levels are that low. And I think it's just going over people's heads. So we've got this rain today, but usually we would have been having more rain. We haven't had rain in weeks. It's just, and so it's hard to be annoyed that it's storming, but I'm like, we need this rain. We need
Right.
this rain. Like, not all at once, like a little bit every day. But like, and it's not just
Yes.
Missouri. I know other parts of the country are experiencing these droughts too, but it's been crazy. It's
You know,
just
a lot of
crazy.
people, like you said, it's going over so many people's heads. They think that climate change is just a liberal talking point, but it has direct ties to racism. Like you said, the floods. Imagine if they were really bad and St. Louis had, in a predominantly black area, it would have displaced a lot of people. We saw it happen with Katrina. Look at what's
Yeah.
happening in Mississippi, in Jackson, Mississippi, and it's a serious issue. More, they said that predominantly black neighborhoods tend to be 6 degrees, at least 6 degrees hotter than predominantly white ones.
Yes.
This is, it's not just a talking point. It's seriously affecting people's quality of life,
Mhm.
and it's a problem.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And I'm glad that more people are starting to talk about it openly, because it's a real issue, and it's not too late. Is we still have time to change the damage that we are doing to
Yes.
this planet. So we need to talk about it more and more, because we still have time, and we owe that to these
Yes.
children. That's part of the reasons why I'm like, I don't need to have any babies, because I don't need to contribute to the population on the planet, and God only knows what it's going to
Yes.
look like in X number of years, but I have to do my part as a good human to not do more harm.
Yes.
So,
Yes. I'm with you.
and you're absolutely doing your part in that as well. So, it takes a village, and so I thank you for being part of
Oh,
the
thank you,
village.
and thank you for having me today.
Yeah, you are so welcome. Thank you. And I definitely, anybody who's part of the She Confidential circle, and anybody that I talk to, you're officially part of the circle. And so I do share and repost people's promos, because I believe in us amplifying, the voices and everything. It's hard. The way these algorithms are set up is designed to make more money off of us by getting us to pay for ads and all that other nonsense. So,
Hmm.
so I
That's so
I
true.
I believe in doing my part. When I have a good product or service, I tell people about it. That's the simplest thing people can do to support other businesses. Just like, if you enjoy something, tell other
Yeah.
people. If you don't enjoy something, tell that
Yes.
owner.
Give us the chance to fix it.
Don't go to social. Tell the owner. Make sure you like, subscribe, and sign up for notifications so that you don't miss any She Confidential podcast episodes. I'll see you next time.